بسم الله الرحمن بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم، والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين، نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. فأرحب بكم جميعا في هذا الويبينار، والذي يهتم بمعرفة كيف يمكن للاندماج والاستحواذ أن يسهم في استدامة المنشآت العائلية ونموها لدينا في المملكة العربية السعودية. بادئ ذي بدء لعلنا يكون الحديث باللغة الإنجليزية، ونبتدي بتعريف للمركز الوطني للمنشآت العائلية. The National Center of the Family Businesses was established by a royal decree in 2012 in order to sustain and grow the family businesses in Saudi Arabia. And we are achieving this mission, the sustainability and the growth of the family businesses, by working with different stakeholders, family businesses, the government, and the consultants, and the society in general. We are providing webinars, white papers, studies, training packages, ADR program, alternative dispute resolutions, trying to resolve the conflicts that arise within the family businesses, or the preventative justice in general, by providing uh, or enhancing the family constitution, and uh, working to institutionalize the family businesses in Saudi Arabia. Um, in the center, we have conducted a lengthy study. It took us more than 6 months working with the Ministry of Commerce. According to this study, we found that 95%, which is an important figure, 95% of the of the private sector in Saudi Arabia um, uh, is family businesses, and employing more than 48% of the total workforce in general. And if we excluding the government employees, the figure will become 57% of the private workforce. It's a good indication about the importance of the family businesses in Saudi Arabia. According also to this study, we found numerous challenges facing the family businesses in Saudi Arabia, either inappropriate legal structure, like the concentration of the sole proprietorship اللي هي المؤسسات الفردية, or specific challenges that just exist and pronounce within the family businesses: lack of family constitution, lack of succession plan between different generations, etc. And also we found market-specific challenges. And what I mean by that, challenges that existing in non-family businesses and family businesses alike, but they are more pronounced within the family businesses. An example of that, limited capacity to access to the finance or the talents, or inability um, uh, to uh, to survive downturn or financial recessions. And a reason for that is they might not have sufficient cash reserve. Also, according to this study, the family businesses have some kind of limitation to access to the finance because the traditional financial entities consider them as risky entities. All these factors, lack of ability to or inability to survive financial downturn, limited capacity to access to the finance market or the talents market, add to these challenges facing the family businesses in Saudi Arabia. Why all these challenges are relevant to to our discussion today, because merger and acquisition might help mitigate all these risks, might help in terms of securing talents, or give them some kind of strength to access to the finance sector and the talent sectors. With us today, some of the members and partners within Altus Council. The Altus Council is a consulting firms specialized in different services, but also in merger and acquisition, providing 360-degree services. And with us today is Maathio Hooper, who is a partner in Altus Council, specialized in M&A service with 18 years of experience in consulting, coaching, and supporting executives in their M&A operations. And also Harun, who is a partner, and other members from the Altus firm. Maathio, the floor is yours, but if you have any questions, please leave it on the question section, and inshallah we will ask them later on.
Thank you very much.
So, okay, so thank you, Sohal, for introducing us, and very interesting topic. So good afternoon, everyone. Assalamu alaikum, and welcome to today to the M&A webinars. So I'm Arun Abar. I'm founder and partner of Alteos Conseil, and I'm very truly delighted to be with you today on behalf of the NCFB and Alteos team as well. So our session today is focusing on the powerful topics, how M&A can be used as an opportunity to grow for Saudi family business in 2025. So as you know, Saudi Arabia now is emerging a new phase of transformation. We see a lot of things there, and their vision 2030 to 2030. So how M&A and their emerging one of the very leverage and the diversification, expansion, and long-term resilience specialized to family guidance and businesses. So today, whenever you are just exploring how the idea, activating, preparing for a deal, or already involved in your M&A, this webinar will offer you practical insight tailored on your your needs and on your expectation. So let's say we will walk through the brief introduction and the first few slide to set a stage, and then I will hand this over of my colleague. Of course, Maathio is on the floor. He will take the floor, and they will. I hope, inshallah, they will give you the more insight that we can provide it. Also, we have as Yazim, who will join with us, but we are at the end of this on this webinar. So before we start, so we would like that this webinar will be very interactive. Okay, so today your introduction is what is for you your interest in M&A today. So you can scan by your phone or your iPad the QR code that you can see on the left side, just to scan it by your phone or your iPad, and you can answer about the 3 questions that we already asked for you. The 3 answers. So Maathio, can you please? So you have 3 answers. It's very easy. A, B, C. Well, today, what is my interest of the M&A today is currently engaged in M&A operation, actively exploration M&A opportunity, or just curiosity. Guys, and we can see your answer. Let's take 1 minute, maybe a couple of seconds. what is your interest in M&A today?
So please, if you can answer the question.
Just scan the QR code. Okay. You can use your phone as well. We see some couple of information. Answer by chat. A. Interesting.
Sure.
Okay, that's okay. So approximately we have today the result is the C, just curiosity. So it's very interesting. We can this is the term that we can provide to you today as webinar. So Matthieu, I think you have to attract them to have this this curiosity, okay, about this webinar, and we will follow that during this session. So Matthieu, maybe you can present the agenda and you what is exactly what we can make it today.
Yes. So yes, hello everyone. Today's agenda, we will focus, we will have 5 sections to explain today. So first we'll do a quick introduction about what is M&A, what it consists in. Second, we would describe a bit more why it is interesting to engage into an M&A operation. So for curious people, that's probably the right section. That we'll talk also about how to use M&A as an opportunity to grow for Saudi family businesses in particular, especially in the current context. Then we'll talk briefly about how to engage into an M&A operation. What is the process that we usually follow to engage into such an operation? And then we'll talk briefly about how to prepare for M&A. And we'll talk not only about people who are active or considering being active, but also how to prepare defensively, because M&A is not only about you engaging with M&A, but also sometimes M&A engaging with you. So we'll be discussing those rapidly. Very quickly, a brief word about who we are. Maybe Aruna, I let you talk about it.
Yeah. So actually, I was gonna say is like a boutique firm company, consulting company, like as the famous one like BCG, McKinsey, and Bain, but we are just a little bit smaller than that big, because we are very close our client, and our targeting and our goal is to be not just the ID and to provide you just the vision, but to make sure that your plan and your vision can be very realistic and very pragmatic on the ground. So this is our scope. So actually, we are currently working in Europe. Of course, we have a lot of experience in Europe and very huge track record in Europe and Africa and Middle East. Actually, we are working with Aramco as well, in what subsidiary of Aramco to provide them. And our target now, we are thinking on the what we are checking now on the ground is a little bit like more training and coaching to make the team ready to make this vision situation. Regarding now is M&A, so we try to find a way how we can help the company to achieve this target. So Matthieu, you can take the mic and maybe go straight forward.
Yeah, maybe just a quick intro. So today, Aruna and I will be the leading the presentation in 1 minute, but I'll leave the floor just quickly to Yezim, who will be speaking as well with our sales and go-to-market expert, and who has been involved into some M&A transactions. We'll talk about it later. So Yezim, if you can just say a few words about you.
Yeah, thank you. Merhaba, everyone. So this is Yeşim Gözen. I'm originally from Turkey. Maybe you can understand from my name. I'm living in London. I have 20 years of technology experience working at Oracle, Microsoft, and Google. And through these companies, I have worked with many big corporations and banks during their M&A time in the digital transformation phases. I started Google Cloud in Turkey and then moved to Dublin and London to work in other teams. And lastly, I work at Google Cloud as the EMEA strategy and sales operations lead, where again, I work with the GTM teams on the way that have them to work with the new acquisition products, what is the best way to reach our clients. At the moment, I'm working as an advisor, consultant, and executive coach with the leaders in corporate companies across EMEA and some in US. Thank you.
Yazim will be speaking about a special Google acquisition Google has worked on, so we'll talk about that a bit later. Thank you very much. I will talk briefly about myself. I will be the one mainly speaking from now on. I am an expert in M&A. I've worked in more than 50 projects on different stages of M&A, whether sourcing an operation, in target screening or defining a strategy, or completing the deal, whether making due diligences or actually closing some transactions. And then also I've been involved in many integrations where it is important to try to deliver the synergies and to make the M&A operations work at the end of the day. So I will be talking about that. I've been active in this field for more than 18 years now, and I've started my career at PwC in strategy end. And like Yazim, I do consulting, but I do coaching as well now. I've been trained to coaching in the recent years because we think that beyond the pure technical elements, the human factor is very important in the M&A aspect. So we'll talk about it briefly. So very quickly, what is M&A? So I think if you are here, even if you're curious, we still want to hear from you. So we started listing what is M&A for you, and feel free to answer the question. So is it a secret handshake between CEOs that magically makes companies richer? Is it a reality show where CFOs compete in Excel duels? Or is it a strategic process where companies merge or acquire others to grow, expand, or gain competitive advantage? Probably you'll see that we try to make it not too serious. So I think the best answer will be relatively obvious to you, but we're happy to hear from you and your answers. Not to spend too much time on it, I think I will move already in the field, and I'll come back to the survey results after. But very briefly to give you an overview about what M&A is. So mergers and acquisition consist in combining or acquiring companies through financial transaction. And the objective is really to achieve some strategic goals. So usually you don't engage for M&A if you don't have a clear goal associated. So it could be growth, market expansion, could be defending or actively looking for a strategic advantage. But we have to have in mind that merger and acquisition is a generic term that often can be misunderstood, or we don't know exactly what's behind. It can take many forms. And so usually we talk about merger and acquisition as the generic name, but it can take different forms. And very quickly, it could be, for example, a merger where two companies would combine to form a new single company. But it could also be just an acquisition where you take control of a company, but you don't have to merge them. So those are separate, but joint ventures are also sometimes associated with M&A, even if we don't talk about a pure acquisition or a cession. The fact that there is a strong contractual agreement, partnership agreement that is formalized in very concrete terms can be also considered in the M&A field, because it can have many complexities that need to be followed up and to be monitored. And the last one, which is also interesting to have in mind when you think about M&A, is the carve-out, because it's not only about acquiring companies and becoming bigger. Sometimes you can decide to divest from investments and former businesses that are no longer relevant, where you are not the best in your field, where you don't generate as much synergies as you would like to. So in that case, you could decide to divest from a business. It could be done through selling it or through a dedicated IPO, can take many forms. Also to have in mind when it comes to M&A, and we'll come back to that, is that usually we associate M&A with 3 stages. First is pre-deal, where we will basically define a strategy and start sourcing targets, identifying who is interesting, who meets our screening criteria, so that we can start engaging into the deal phase, where the idea of the deal phase will be to know better about the target company, validate that the acquisition is a good idea, that we are not overpaying it, that it has solid financial background, a strong market position, those kind of things. And then you would enter into the negotiation phase and the closing phase, where the financing also obviously would be an issue, but also really closing, agreeing on all the terms and making the transaction official. And then to finish, and last but not the least, the post-deal phase. And this is where often the value is destroyed in a transaction. And basically having this in mind is really important, because integrating the target companies once you acquired it and delivering the synergies that you had in mind is not only essential, but also often very difficult. So we'll come back to that. So this was to give you a brief understanding about what is M&A and the different stage. And now we would like to ask you a bit more about why engage into a M&A operation. So good news is, in the previous survey, with all the votes we got, everyone got the right answer. So if that's okay, we would like to ask you also here, why could you think of engaging into an M&A operation? So one option is to do like everyone else. Second option is to accelerate growth, potentially access new market, gain strategic capabilities, or because the board got bored and wanted a fun new toy to play with. So once again, I'll let you possibly share your answers. I think those are relatively easy to manage. So we would like to share with you that M&A operation can be used to achieve a broad range of strategic objectives. And I will share a few ones. It's not exhaustive. And obviously, this depends really much on the situation of a company. But just to give you a bit of perspective, we can consider that the market expansion is one aspect that you could choose to go into M&A for. So obviously, M&A will allow you to enter new markets or accelerate time to market to, I don't know, it can be if you are present in a certain geography, you want to expand in a new geography, obviously it will be much faster to acquire a company that already is present, already has clients, already has distribution networks. So we, as an illustration, we're talking about the Uber who acquired Karim to significantly gain time to gain presence and to be exposed in the Middle East and North Africa. Another reasons you could choose to go into M&A would be to gain a competitive advantage. So for example, we took the example of Disney, who acquired Pixar here. Why is that? Because Pixar has a very strong edge when it came to animation technology. They were much more advanced and much more modern than Disney. And so to leverage Pixar brand and to get access to their talents and expertise, Disney acquired Pixar. And it gained them a very strong competitive advantage and allowed them not to lose their market edge that they had from so many years. Another reason why you could go into M&A would be to diversify. You could think that whether you are in danger in your market, so you would like to expand into new areas to align with market trends. For example, like Meta did acquiring Instagram and WhatsApp. If Facebook had remained Facebook, probably they'll be dead by now, or they wouldn't be the player they are right now. So considering expanding into new product categories, anticipating market trends is very important to maintain your position and be on top of your market and anticipating what can be happening. And then last, another perspective you could have if you want to engage into M&A would be to engage and find some strategic or operational synergies. For this, for example, we took Google, who acquired Android, who basically enabled Google to be present in the device industry. And if you think of Google as, let's say, a software player, the fact that they entered the device industry with Android allowed them to be in competition with Apple, which they wouldn't have been able to do if they had stayed only in their previous field. So those are illustrations of some reasons to go into M&A, to engage into M&A operation. Now, beyond why you would want to go, you also need to consider, what if I don't go? What is happening? And potentially those can not being willing to invest in M&A, or at least to consider it, can translate into potentially some opportunities that you will lack, you will miss in a globalized economy. Obviously, if you are present globally, you have more chance to win global customers and to be part of every conversation compared to if you are only present in your country, in your region, where potentially you could miss some business opportunities. And then obviously, if you don't update, if you don't stay up to date with what is happening in your industry, don't follow the trends, you can be at risk and your business can be threatened. So once again, the idea is not to make you afraid, but more to give perspective on it is important to stay alert about M&A, and because it has implications beyond the pure acquisition or merger that you would like to engage in. We chose to give you some illustrations about a Saudi player who engaged into M&A. So in this case, Abdul Latif Jamil, with a family-owned conglomerate with a large history, and they are active in several business sectors. And they decided to engage in M&A for various reasons. And as you can see on the left, there can be many strategic reasons for which you could consider engaging M&A, and we discussed some of them also before. But just to give a bit of perspective, for example, Abdul Latif Jamil decided to expand into Spain with the Photo Washo Renewable Ventures, a company based in Spain. So it allowed them to be present in Europe. They also decided to invest in Joby Aviation, to diversify into electric vehicles and air taxi segment. They also entered into a strategic partnership with Toyota through a joint venture, which we mentioned before, to be able to distribute in Middle East and in India Toyota products. And they also engaged into digital transformation, investing in Rivian, a US-based manufacturer, that allowed them to also to move towards new digitally integrated mobility solutions. So this is just one example of one group and their overall strategy. It can take many forms, and this is what we do usually as consultants or coaches. We support our clients to help them define such a strategy. We'll come back to that a bit later. So once again, before we move to the next section, everyone got it right on the questionnaire. The idea of the M&A operation is to accelerate growth, access to new markets, and gain new capabilities. So now we would like to talk about how to use M&A as an opportunity to grow for Saudi family businesses in the current Saudi context. So before, once again, we would like you to engage. And why do you think family businesses should consider M&A in 2025? So first, because running the same business for 40 years is way too easy. So you might want to get out of your comfort zone, to ensure long-term growth, succession planning, and alignment with Vision 2030 goals, or to add strategic deal makers to the family business card collection.
Thank you, Maathio. Let's give them maybe 20 seconds to try to answer, because we have a lot of interactivity on the application. Maybe to have what is the right answer that they can provide us.
If you prefer to use the chat, you can do it as well.
Yes, we have some question on the chat. We will provide them the answer and some briefer answer on that.
So yes, the right answer was the B answer,
Yeah.
and almost everyone got it right. The strategic deal makers to the family business cards collection is obviously it's a nice achievement to finalize a deal, but it's not always enough to make a company or an acquisition successful. So now we will try to give you some perspective on, and possibly you know better than us, because you know the kingdom's news very well, but we would like to give perspective on why it's important to consider Saudi right now and M&A in Saudi currently. So obviously Vision 2030 plays an important role into that, with the reforms that are already contributing to Saudi M&A dynamics. How? Through financial first, and second, regulatory incentives. So what does it mean? It means that the fact that the kingdom is already investing in particular through PIF, thousands of billions of dollars to domestically, is expected to contribute significantly to the M&A dynamics. Basically, the fact that the PIF is investing facilitates the transaction, but also attracts foreign investors. It contributes to the dynamism of the economy and therefore of the M&A market. The M&A transactions are strongly correlated to the economic growth. So this is really expected to contribute. And the fact that also this can take different forms and also be by backing ventures, whether venture capital funds or private equity funds like the JADA fund of funds, which translates into co-investments. But once again, this is also facilitating the investment in the kingdom and giving reasons to people, whether locally or foreign, to invest and to engage into transactions to acquire or to develop their companies. And regulatorily speaking, it's the same. The fact that the regulatory environment has been streamlined or is currently being streamlined is also contributing to the M&A dynamics. This can be seen in the fast-track licensing visa, for example, Invest Saudi and MISA. Also by the fact that now 100% foreign ownership is enabled in Saudi, and the fact that the listing on Tadawul is facilitated, increasing transparency. The launch of the Nomu parallel market also helps SMEs go public more easily. All this is expected and already has started to facilitate the M&A, to boost the M&A dynamics in the country. And this has translated with an increase of 55% of the deal's value in 2024 compared to 2023. So the boost is already here, the trend is already here, and all of this is just starting, and we expect very strong dynamics to come from this. This has already started, this momentum has already started in particular with Saudi players being active, engaging into transactions, like we can see with TBR and HM in the healthcare service. Basically, they invested to diversify and expand their cooperation. Jazz and Marn also, or the Al Sager Insurance and the Gulf Union Cooperative Insurance will also merge to consolidate operations. So this is locally, and also Saudi players have started to invest in the rest of the world, like the Savvy Games Group, who acquired Scopely in the US to gain innovative capabilities. Savola, who acquired Egibelg in Egypt to expand its operation, or Almarai, and who acquired Bakemart in UAE and Bahrain. So these trends are already here, and this is already happening. And also, and it's also, I think we think it is interesting to have in mind when you think about M&A. Like I said, it could be you being the proactive player, but it could be also about others considering you. And so the fact that foreign countries are starting to invest a lot, and more in the kingdom, like the few transactions that you can see on the screen, is also a sign that this is happening. And you might want to consider M&A not only to acquire companies, but also possibly to ensure that you will not be acquired, or that you are prepared in case someone is interested by your assets. Is something that you need to have in mind considering M&A today. So that's it for this part about the Saudi context. Now we would like to give you a bit of perspective on how to engage in an M&A activity. I'll try to go possibly a bit faster because I see the time passing. So still having the question, what do you think an M&A operation involves? So is it a lot of boring stuff like compliance, paperwork, and financial checks? Is it a structured process from strategy to screening, due diligence, deal execution, and integration? Or is it creating just a cool M&A task force with a cool name before figuring out what to do?
Is the right answer always B, or?
That's a good question. It's not made on purpose.
Okay.
But I think, yeah, it's pretty straightforward, and I see the results also in the chat. So yes, the B answer is the right one. So, sorry. Yeah, everyone got that right. So to give you a bit of perspective of the stages involved in M&A, I mentioned them in the beginning, but here I'm going to go a bit more into the details. So we got the 3 stages: pre-deal, deal, and post-deal. And inside the pre-deal, basically, we will talk about defining a strategy. Which sector are you looking to acquire a company in? Why? How does it make sense with your current strategy, with your current position in the market, your current performance, your financials? Are they good enough also to be able to finance an acquisition, those kind of things? Then you would need to identify a target and filter out of the ocean of targets that you could be interested in. Go and try to screen to find the right one at the end of the day. And we'll talk a bit more about that later. Then you would engage into the deal, where you would do a due diligence to ensure that, okay, the company is the right one, it's not overvalued, it has strong financials, strong position on the market, those kind of things. You would enter then into the valuation and financing stage before negotiating and closing the deal. And then in the post-deal, usually we differentiate the post-deal integration itself and the fact that you want to generate long-term synergies out of the transaction. So I try to be fast on this one to manage the time, but basically in the pre-deal, to identify a target, you will define your objectives, define the scope of investment, and then establish some criteria. So you would have a look at, am I finding companies? Is there data about them? Do they fit my objective? Is their financial performance good enough? Is there a potential for synergy? Is there a compatibility when it comes to culture and operation? And is there a willingness to sell the company from the owner? So those are the kind of criteria, and you can adjust them depending on your context that you need to consider. And just to give you a bit of perspective, to source targets, you could choose to have a team internally to identify targets and do the screening for internally, or to use the management, the founder, or the CEO networks. But it could also be done through the investment banks and the M&A boutiques, who often are privileged in that sense because they know more or less who is selling or who is not. But they can also not be neutral and try to sell you what they think is the best fit, but because they know it's for sale, so they can be a bit biased. The consulting firms are more neutral when it comes to that, and you can also meet people at industry events and hear about what is happening in the industry, basically. So then some due diligence can be conducted. It can be out due diligence. So basically those will focus on concrete data, quantifiable facts about the target company. This is where we'll look at financial statements, the operational matrix, the KPIs of the companies, if it's compliant, if in terms of tax and legal issues. So basically, you might want to engage into financial, commercial, operational, legal, tax due diligence, depending on the size of the deal, to know better if the company financials are solid, if its revenues are or its market positioning is good enough, if its operational performance is real, or potentially it can be poor, but then you think there might be synergies that you can generate out of it. So those due diligences help you confirm that it's good the transaction is a good idea. And then you could have some soft due diligences where you focus on more qualitative factors that are less tangible, but also important, like the culture, the organization, possibly the sustainability, and the people, basically. So those are less easy to see, but this is why now, and this is why also, for example, with Yezim, we engage into coaching, because these cultural aspects are often undervalued, and they play a critical role in the value generation of a transaction at the end of the day. So I'm gonna go a bit fast on those ones. Maybe for the business valuation methods, there are many ways basically that you can learn, and also we'll be sharing those slides. You can use let's say the income-based approach or the asset-based approach, which are very financial approaches, or you can use the comparative methods where you would use some multiples of profitability to assess what is the value of a company. But at the end of the day, it's a negotiation, and so you need to enter those phases. But I'll go fast on those ones to try to preserve the timing. When it comes to financing, you can use financing on your own. You can try to finance from debt. You can try with equity investments or through LBOs. So once again, there are many options, and we don't have time to enter those into too much detail, but there are many options to get finance at the end of the day. And then very quickly on the integration phase, we think this phase is very important and often underestimated. When you decide to integrate, you can decide to absorb the company, make it internal. You can decide to leave it in parallel. You can decide to integrate partially. So those are some options that you can choose from in case you want to integrate a company. But it's very important that you define this integration strategy before, and you try to understand what is the context of the company and how difficult it can be to integrate it, especially culturally speaking, because it can translate into many challenges. And we're going to talk very quickly about it in the next slide. So the M&A benefits are very clear. We exposed many of them. But in terms of challenges, here are a few challenges that undermine often the success of an operation. Sometimes the strategy is not clear enough. The due diligence are not performed or are too weak. So we overpay the targets. The synergies are often overestimated, and the integration is also often done in a poor way. And the conclusion is that 70 to 90% of operations do not deliver expected results. And so it's a very strong figure. So that's why also people like us tend to support companies to improve the likelihood of success of an integration. So very quickly, I'll speak about the Orange buying Millicom. This was an African transaction. And to talk about some challenges that I mentioned before, Millicom was much bigger than Orange in the market they acquired. But for political reasons, Orange still wanted to impose its position on the market. And even if their customer base, it was in the financial services industry, was possibly 10 times smaller, they still wanted to impose their platform to merge into their offering, those kind of things. So this is where, personally, as a consultant, I was involved to convince Orange to first leverage the Millicom assets and have Orange align with Millicom before migrating to Orange target platforms, target organization, offerings, and those kind of stuff. So it's a very concrete example of sometimes ego take over, and we want the acquiring company to be the one managing everything, but this is a very easy way to destroy value at the end of the day. And Yazim, if you want to talk very quickly about the APG experience.
Sure. So maybe you have heard that Google has acquired APG back in 2016. And there were many reasons for that. One of the reasons is because Google was behind AWS and Microsoft Azure in the market, and they were not seen as enterprise ready as the other ones. So in order to gain more competitive value in this environment ecosystem, and also be able to see more enterprise ready, they want to acquire APG. And also they realize the value of API business in the market, so they want to include that. And the last, but maybe the most important opportunity was that APG comes with their own set of clients. And Google was, especially back in 2016, was for many corporate clients, they were just a greenfield. So while it looks perfect on paper, that's a great acquisition and the products kind of integrated well, but there were actually other challenges on the day-to-day go-to-market side. The Google has a different culture and APG has a different culture. So first of all, there were cultural differences in terms of the sales teams. And Google sales teams, field sales teams, they were selling very different products. And the main product that they are selling is the cloud storage, the BigQuery, and where it's more chunk of money that they can make their quotas. While APG, A, they don't know the product very well. B, they also lack the amount, the revenue that APG would bring would be smaller. So they wouldn't focus on that. So how Google solved this is, first of all, they brought the senior people from APG as the APG specialists and the sales managers. And then these teams were giving the whole quota of the APG, which mirrors the quota of the field sales team, so that the APG sales specialist team were working to get build the customers and get new customers, and supporting the field sales team to again on the go-to-market. So in that way, the focus of APG has been shifted and more focused on the APG customers. And the main gain has been for the field sales operations to use APG for the current customers to expand and bring other Google products and introduce them. So they use actually the APG know-how and the current customers to penetrate more with the other products. And this, of course, the cultural shift and working together has been tuned year by year before it becomes excellence. And I believe this is one of the most important things when there is a new merger and acquisitions, because as I said, while everything looks perfect on paper, it's important that translated onto the sales teams so that you can see the revenue also flowing in as soon as possible.
Thank you, Yazim. So we wanted to give you a brief overview about the risks and the challenges that can come with M&A. So we'd like to finish with give you a perspective on how to prepare. It's very high level at this stage, but we'd like to also to ask you what is the right way to start preparing to your company for M&A. So yes, Soal, I think we are.
And the answer is not B.
The answer is not. Are you sure? That's a good.
No, I'm joking. It's more of a joke.
So we're also saying the time is flying. So yeah, maybe we'll extend by a few minutes in case you have any constraints, or feel free to ask your questions or to share anything in the chat. We're trying to manage timing the best we can to not to
Well,
rush.
you know, Mathiew, we have in this parallel some question, very relevant question and very interesting, smart question as well on the Q&A question. We try to figure out and to give them some answers and relevant answers about this question.
Okay, we'll try
at the same time.
Try to go fast to finish and to address the question.
No, we are fine in terms of time. We can just expand and elaborate a little. And we started late, so we can go until 1:10, 1:15 with the questions.
Perfect. Thank you very much, Swal. So yeah, everyone got it right, 100% on this one. It was the B answer. So yes, we will try to change, not to put everything as B as the right answer next time. But yes, the idea is to be ready for M&A. You should align internally on your goals, strategic goals. Also to prepare in terms of, are you ready? Have you made the assessments, internal ones, possibly external ones, and potentially organize your financials? It's a bit a simplistic version of it, but it's mostly that. So one thing we'd like to share, and I've shared it a bit before, is that you should prepare for M&A even if you're not willing to engage into M&A yourself. You could think that you don't want to engage into M&A because your performance is not good enough, you don't have clear vision, your succession planning is not prepared enough. Many factors could come into play. But that's why we think if your company is in a growth stage, it's different than if your company could plan to defend against unwanted takeover or control. And so M&A should be still part of, should be in your mind as well in that case, because you should be preparing for an offensive strategy, but also possibly of a defensive strategy to be ready. Because in the context that we described, it is very interesting for foreign companies now to invest in Saudi. So in case you are not ready, not willing to engage right now, it's still important that you know about where you stand today in case something would be happening in the market tomorrow. And to do that, so yeah, we do have a question, and the B is not the right answer possibly for this one. We'd like to ask you, what do you think is essential before engaging into a M&A process? So is it about getting the right support, watch some YouTube tutorials, or engaging into an M&A operation without preparing and then figuring out what is the best strategy? So yes, we got a few answers, and the idea is to possibly get the right support to move forward efficiently. And it is not an easy task, and this is why often we come to support our clients. But it's not only about consultants; it's about really knowing that this is a special thing, and usually businesses are focused on their daily work, and whether defining a strategy, identifying a targets, completing the execution, and integrating are very time-consuming tasks. And it's very important to have associated teams to do that, and also to potentially have the support system. So once again, everyone got it right with the A answer, this one. So that's why I wanted to, give you a bit of share also our perspective that, and we gave the Guardiola example to say that Manchester City got supported obviously with the right coach, but also all the right support systems everywhere, from the players, from the Guardiola's team, from the club itself, from everything in their environment. They try to set in a right way to be ready to execute under pressure, and to be the strong team that we know, and who has won and defeated many other English or European teams along the years. And it's the same with M&A. This is what we want to say, that in terms of support, whether when it comes to getting clarity, making complex decisions, protecting your legacy, preparing for deal, usually it's better to have a strong support systems, which is why we offer some training and coaching and consulting. And beyond us, it's important for you to know that when it comes to training, it's about knowing what is M&A, what are the different stages, a bit that we tackled today, but at the very surface of everything. But when it comes to coaching, we are more talking about first defining a vision, decision-making, deal negotiation could be at stake, but also when cultures are different, when stakeholders have different visions or are tough to reconcile, coaching can be a good option for you possibly. And then you have consulting that can come before the M&A operation to build a strategy, but also identifying targets, assessing the target through due diligence, or facilitating integration and synergy generation with post-merger support. So those
Very
are
interesting, Matthieu, on this slide, I think. So let's take maybe a few seconds to explain what is the most difficult thing, and I think in M&A. Of course, technical thing, you have to follow the technical thing and to have the operational thing. But I think before that, the most important is to manage people, and managing people is I think the worst and the most difficult thing that you can make it as a manager or CEO. So to make it on the ground is the very staff thing to prepare the team and to say the team, you know what, we will go on this stage and this level and that level. But to make it, you have to train them like a team, like a football team. You can have the most important player in your team, like Messi, Neymar, Ronaldo, etc. But if you don't have the right trainer and the coaching, it could be difficult to achieve and to win the awards that you have to targeting. So the combination about all the thing is to have, for sure, we have to start with the training and to make sure that all the people around the team, about the company are really involved to make it on the real, and as well, of course, the coaching, because you have to. Sometimes you have some people have a difficulty and to understand exactly what is the objective, what is the target, where we're going, what is the vision in 10 years, etc. And of course, the consulting is to make just implementation about the technical thing regarding about all the things. So that's why we are very. It's very important for us to say, okay, the training and the coaching is not only the technical thing. You have to, I think, to to make it on your mind and to say, okay, guys, it's not only a technical thing. Thank you, Matthieu.
Okay. Thank you, Matthew, Haruna, Yazam, for this excellent session. And I know it's just a high level introduction for the M&A word. Just the slide that you briefly discussed about the valuation. It takes forever just to explain it. Anyhow, but I think this is really a good introduction, and maybe it gave the audience an idea about this world and how can we navigate. We have some questions that the audience asked. We will just take two questions. One from Walid about what are the risks associated with the merger and acquisition. And I know that you discussed some of them, but just in terms of strategy, as we know that maybe we will end up with the cultural crash, or maybe the dilution of focus, or maybe in terms of strategy, they are not fit together. If you can just elaborate around that.
Yes, so on the strategy, often even if we put this as a funny answer before, often companies engage into M&A because there is an opportunity. And so because there's this opportunity, we jump into it and we don't really try to consider if it's really relevant compared to the current company's performance, positioning, and those kind of things. So that's why usually the right approach is to say, okay, this is us right now, and these are the trends going on in the market. So it would be interesting for us in case we want to grow in a certain geography, in case we think there are technical trends that are active on the market. We need to position ourselves. So we would integrate those into our M&A strategy, saying we could engage into a partnership, or we could acquire a company. So this is this work basically in the strategy when you elaborate the strategy of your company, where there would be a focus about M&A, and M&A can represent an option to move forward. So that's the way we would do it. And usually, yeah, some firms do it internally. Sometimes they get support to help them get perspective about their market, understand what is happening, and then engage or not engage into an M&A operation.
Nice. The other question, as we know, the family businesses are complicated. You will end up with the family itself and the business and the founders or the owners, the ownership. And in terms of merger and acquisition, some of the founders, this is an anonymous question, he's talking about the emotions that are tied with the family businesses. How can we mitigate this issue? Maybe the founder won't let go. He is emotionally tied to the business itself.
This is a very strong point. Historically, it's very recent that we start talking about emotions in an M&A process. M&A usually, can be associated to finance sharks in the financial industry, and very high stake transaction with very big amounts and those kind of things. But we don't see what is happening behind the scenes, and it's very, 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 very key for family businesses, because when you are the founder of your own business, your emotional ties to your business are totally different and cannot be understood only from a rational or financial perspective. And it can translate into the deal making itself. I don't know, if you saw, there is a series about Rupert Murdoch and his relationship with his sons, and it's about that. Like, when you built an empire, you spent decades building something, even to your family members, you won't be willing to give them the business like that. So usually I think personally that the right way to manage this is through coaching, potentially through getting the right support. to be able to share the perspectives of everyone and to progressively build this aspect, especially in terms of succession planning, to identify the right person, but also manage everyone's expectation and progressively building it in a way that is relatively smooth. It won't be necessarily always easy, but at least having parties that are not really emotionally involved into that can make a lot of sense to facilitate things at the end of the day.
Okay, thank you. We really appreciate your inputs, Matthew, Haruna, and Yazem, and for the Altus company for presenting this important subject. As I said, we think merger and acquisition might mitigate some of the issues that the family businesses usually face in terms of limited capacity to deal with financial recession, financial downturn, or to acquire talents and retain them, or to grow globally or internationally. Also, I want to extend my thanks to all the attendees for attending this session. And hopefully we are going to see you, inshallah, in our next events with the NCA3. Please take the survey. You will find it when you close the browser. You will find or the Zoom. You will find the survey. It's really important to get your insights about these events and what's your interest in terms of future topics. Many thanks to you all, and assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. See you.